everybody, welcome to The Locker Room, our weekly podcast where we shine a light on the student athletes here in our Bayou region. I'm Stan Gravois. He is Dustin Robichaux. He is the guy who puts this all together. I'm the guy who tries to give you the content. Not only does he put this together, he always gives us what the day is today, because obviously every day, all 365 of them, have a day assigned to them or a special meaning. Today is...
Happy National Tennis Day, Stan.
Okay.
Big tennis fan?
No.
Got a favorite player?
No, listen, I grew up in the era where you had the McEnroes and people like that. Even when I was very little, Jean Borg, I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I used to like to watch tennis when I was younger. As of late, I couldn't tell you anybody who's playing tennis that much.
Agassi, Sampras was probably my last when I was still into it.
No, and Americans, besides the sisters, Venus and
Serena, yes.
Serena, yeah, we just don't we don't excel that much in it, I guess.
Right.
That's
well, it's it originated back in France, right?
This is true, and it's not played on the kind of surfaces we actually play on here in America. And I'm trying to figure, we're in March, early March. I don't know if that's the best tennis weather in the world, but it is what it is. So if you are a tennis enthusiast, I hope you have a wonderful day today as we celebrate Tennis Day. Is that what it's called again? Tennis Day?
Yes, National Tennis Day.
National Tennis Day. There you go, folks. You have it. I know tons of you tune in just to find out.
Just because you want to know the day, yes.
Yes. Listen, there is a lot going on related to high school sports as we're making a transition from the winter sports to the spring sports. And that simply means that basketball is finishing up. Soccer just finished up. Unfortunately, had nobody in any state championship games from our Bayou region. Actually, we're out of girls basketball teams too. Now we just have the boys who are gonna hopefully carry the torch, and maybe some of them will go right down the line and make a long run into the playoffs. But baseball has started, softball has started, golf has started, tennis has started, bowling is underway, all those other sports. So we'll keep you up to date with all of those. As a matter of fact, still too early to start putting your finger on who are going to be the teams to watch and who are not, as again, it's really early. They're only in like their second and third weeks of playing. Second and third weeks of playing. So that being said, it's still going to be a ways off before we start solidifying who is going to be playoff contenders and who is not. But we can get you caught up with what happened related to soccer and basketball and sort of put a bow on soccer and maybe the final touches on basketball. First, we'll talk about soccer just a little bit. Soccer has come to a close. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody in state championship contests on the pitch, and they play that over in Hammond at Southeastern. Usually we have somebody there. Unfortunately, this year, the furthest we got was a girls team, and that was E.D. White, who made it to the semifinals. No boys teams even made it to the semifinals this year. That's extremely odd. But we do want to congratulate those boys teams that did get into the playoffs. Losing in the first round, and they call that the Bayou Regional round, was Terrebonne High. They're a Division I team. Ellender, a Division II team. South Terrebonne, a Division II team. South Lafourche, Division II team. So we had a lot of Division II teams in there. And Homer Christian lost out in the first round. Again, that's Bayou Regionals, first round. Congratulations to those teams, but they did not advance. And then in the quarterfinals, you had quite a few schools advance from our local area. H.L. Bourgeois played extremely well, made it to the quarterfinals, which is the third round of competition. They took on Brother Martin. They went down 4-0 to Brother Martin. But Brother Martin is a team that is extremely good, and they were good again this year as they made it to the state championship. Central Lafourche made it to the quarterfinals in D2. Unfortunately for the Trojans, they ran up against a really good Turlings Catholic team. They lose that one 6-2 to Turlings Catholic. Vanderbilt and E.D. White, both in Division III, and made it to the quarterfinal round. As a matter of fact, if they both would have won, they'd have been playing each other in the semifinals. Unfortunately, both of them didn't win. Both of them actually lost. Loyola beat Vanderbilt Catholic 2-1. Loyola was the second seed in the entire tournament. And E.D. White unfortunately lost to St. Louis Catholic, who was the number 1 seed, 3-1. So a good year for both of those teams. Unfortunately, did not make it to the semifinals. And CCA made it to the quarterfinals this year. Unfortunately, they had to play the number 2 seed, North Lake Christian. They lose that one 3-1, so CCA was knocked out. Again, we had nobody from the local area move on and make it to the semifinals or the finals. That's unfortunate, but I think we'll be back there next year. Girls action, a little bit different. I mentioned E.D. White made it all the way to the semifinals. Before that, let's take a look at our local teams that were in the playoffs. Thibodaux unfortunately lost in the first round along with H.L. Bourgeois and Terrebonne. Those 3 teams play in Division 1. Ellendale Memorial and South Lafourche lost in Division 2 in the first round, and CCA's Lady Lions lost in the first round, which was a mild upset. A lot of people thought CCA's girls could really make a run, and unfortunately, that didn't happen this year. Then in the regionals, it was South Terrebonne and Lutcher bowing out. So South Terrebonne and Lutcher make it to the second round before they're ousted. And then you have the quarterfinals. Central Lafourche and Vanderbilt both made it to the quarterfinals. Central Lafourche had a tough outing against Turlings. They lose that one 2-0. So both the boys and the girls programs were knocked out of the playoffs at Central Lafourche by Turlings Catholic. That's tough. Vanderbilt actually lost to Sacred Heart. Final on that one was 2-0. So the Lady Terriers played well, just couldn't get it done. And then I mentioned E.D. White making it to the semifinals. And get this, folks, they lost to the number 1 seed Hannon 1-0. So what a way to go out. So we almost had somebody in the state championship in E.D. White's girls, but it just didn't happen. That puts a bow tie and a button right on soccer, as soccer is finished for the calendar year 2025-2026. Basketball. Unfortunately, in girls basketball, we don't have anybody advancing. Everybody is out now. The championships haven't been played yet. They're going to be played this week, actually, over in Hammond at Southeastern. But we don't have anybody who's going to be in that number. In the regional round, H.L. Bourgeois out, Houma Christian out, and Central Catholic of Morgan City was knocked out. In the regional round, South Lafourche was knocked out after winning their first game in the playoffs. South Terrebonne won their first game in the playoffs for the first time in, Lord, maybe 30 years. But unfortunately, in the second round, they ran up against a really good Lagrange team out of Lake Charles, and they were knocked out. Lutcher also knocked out in the second round. And then in the third round, Terrebonne High School, a big shout out to Cassidy Barrios and her group. It's the first, think about this now. Terrebonne's been in existence since 1908. That is the furthest their girls basketball program has ever been in the playoffs. Now, I'm talking about modern basketball. If you go back to like 1932 and such, Terrebonne's women actually did well. And a lot of you are probably surprised going, they played basketball there in 1930-something? They played basketball at Terrebonne High in 1915. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yes, so when we did the 200 years of Terrebonne Parish's history and we were looking at teams, Terrebonne High had good women's teams way back when, but there were very limited high schools in the state of Louisiana. So in modern time, Terrebonne's women's teams have not fared that well in basketball. This year, Cassidy Barrios got them to the quarterfinals. They went up and played Neville. They lost 58-52, so like by 6.
Wow.
So they were very competitive this year. Vanderbilt Catholic, team that won the state championship last year in Division 2 Select, they got ousted. They got beat pretty bad, actually, in that round, the quarterfinal round, because remember, they had a bye in the first round. And finally, E.D. White also got knocked out. Those two teams ran up against Madison Prep and University High out of Baton Rouge, and they were just too good. So that puts a bow tie on girls basketball. The only thing we got left happening is boys basketball, and unfortunately, this past Friday night, we had a lot of our local teams who were knocked out in bi-regional action. H.L. Bourgeois was knocked out. Boy, H.L. Bourgeois was supposed to be really good this year, and they never could get it together. They lose to East Ascension in the first round. Terrebonne was knocked out by number 5 Westgate pretty handily in that one. Thibodaux High was beat by South Lafourche. I wish two local teams wouldn't have had to play each other in the first round, but it is what it is. Vanderbilt Catholic was knocked out in the first round in a bit of a surprise to McKinley. McKinley was actually a lower seed. And probably the biggest surprise in the first round, which again we call Bayou Regional, was Covenant Christian getting beat pretty bad by Crescent City. Crescent City was the number 21 seed. They barely made it into the bracket, and they come into town. When I say they come into town, CCA played the game at Thibodeau Middle, which is a little odd. I saw your face when I said that. CCA a lot of times plays in Thibodeau for whatever reason. It's a terrible imperative school that plays in Thibodeau. Anyway, they got beat by Crescent City, so they are out. But moving on, winning in the first round was South Lafourche. South Lafourche, obviously that win over Thibodeau, is now going to take on number 6 Central of Baton Rouge. That game is going to be on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. You could catch it on Bayou Sports because, and I don't even know this, but I know this, right? Bayou Sports carries all of the Tarpons games. So if you would like to see it and can't make it out to Central of Baton Rouge, 6 o'clock on Tuesday night. Also on Tuesday night, Ellender is taking that long trip up to the Monroe area. They'll be taking on the number 1 seed in Division II non-select Wassman. It's going to be a tough one for the Patriots. The only thing is I'm not too impressed by Wassman's schedule or their final record, 21-7, but they lost games against teams that I think Ellender beat along the way. So let's hope Ellender does well. Assumption at number 13 is traveling to Bossier, so they're going all the way up to Shreveport to take on number 4 Bossier. Bossier is 19-8 on the year. And finally, Westminster out of Lafayette is going to come into the Morgan City area to take on Central Catholic. Central Catholic is a number 4 seed. They're the highest seed left in our area. They do play in Division 4 Select. So it's not a big school, but I think they may have the best opportunity to make a good run at all of this. So again, boys basketball still has some opportunities to give us a state championship in the area. Unfortunately, we are out of it for everything else. So we got you caught up. Basketball. Track and field starts too. I want to mention, I didn't talk about track and field, but I know a lot of those guys are getting those meets together, and we want to make sure that we let you know who are our stellar track and field athletes from around the area. So that's another sport that's going to be starting. I do hope that you could go out and support these kids. They certainly deserve it. They're not sitting around doing something that's negative in nature. They're out trying to do something and support their community and their school by participation. So we do hope you could go out and support them along the way. We're going to start delving into baseball and softball a lot more next week. We'll actually have Bobby Arsenault, who's going to let us know who's playing on the collegiate level from our Bayou region next week also. So we can't wait to bring that to you.
No tennis?
No tennis as of recent, simply because tennis doesn't even play districts anymore.
I see.
Tennis teams just sort of go out and play and they wait for their regional. That's where regional is the big thing for tennis. As a matter of fact, you don't have to play one tennis match the entire year. You could go straight to the regionals, and if you have kids who are really good and they perform well at regional, they can move on. It would be sort of silly not to play some tennis matches if you have the opportunity, but that being said, and by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed the wind lately.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a good friend who is a tennis coach here locally in town, and they tried to play a match. And when one of their kids served it, this was last Thursday, it was a young lady who served it, and it was returned. The serve of return actually went on the other side of the court, hit, and that person didn't even have to return it. The wind blew it back on that side, so they canceled the match. So a lot of times when you start getting into March and April, tennis folks have to worry about the weather. That's why you see the big wind screens around the tennis courts.
Right.
But a lot of those wind screens are blown all over the place too. So we will get to tennis. We'll let you know who's the good tennis teams in our area and who are those that are struggling a little bit. We'll also let you know who has an opportunity maybe to win a state championship, as we have a couple of local teams that always do well. Assumption's always good in tennis. Obviously, Vanderbilt's good in tennis. So we'll see how it all plays out going forward. Anything else besides Tennis Day?
That was it.
We wished them a happy Tennis Day, so I think we're good for that. Again, go out and support these kids. They certainly deserve it. Lots of outdoor activity in the spring as it's getting warmer and warmer. They would love to see you there, and we'd love to see you there too. We'll be back with a full version of The Locker Room next week. Take care, everybody.